The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And I'm going to turn the monitor on.
The monitor was on, believe it or not. Yeah, this morning it's one of those days the snow is just hitting us hard and desperate here. So.
Yeah. And I don't think they paid the heating bill because it's normally like an oven in this studio, and this morning it's like a meat locker.
Yeah, I hear you. So, well, yesterday was the council meeting.
Oh God. Yeah, and that's a very, very accurate description too. What is wrong with this monitor? Oh, there we go. Finally. It may come on now. But yeah, that was not a council meeting. It was a money grab to rape and pillage the taxpayers again. It's incredible. I mean, they just, they just don't have any regard for the citizens of Fall River. I guess everybody in that council chamber, except for maybe Sean Kadim and Steve Camara, have no idea that this community is economically depressed, that this city is, we've got a quarter of the population, nearly a quarter of the population living below the poverty level. We have high unemployment. We have the lowest household income in the state. And they're throwing around these figures of almost $300 million around like they're nothing, and then they lie on top. They mislead and they lie. How do they do that? You know, it took 6 dentists to extract the fact from Mary Sahadi that they can throw around these lower figures all they want, which still aren't low. But the fact is that at any time, if this is approved, they can get 100% of their bond. And anybody that doesn't think that once they get you to believe the low ball figure and you're approved this, that at some point in time they're going to come back and grab every penny they can out of this bond, you need your head examined. I'll tell you, this monitor is really irritating this morning. It just won't work. Oh, God. But, this is just
Well,
nuts.
Interestingly enough, we lost one camera, so
Yeah. And
we're hopefully getting it back shortly.
yeah, well, it's still not going, and I see the HDMI logo up on the screen, so I'm going to give up on that. But yeah, this is crazy. Look, as I said, I'm an advocate of education, but I'm not an advocate of spending money. And more good news for you taxpayers, the few of you left in this city that could vote and get out there March 6th and shoot this down. The water bills are going up.
Yep, that was announced last night.
Guess what? They just went up again, and now they're going up again. I got to get this in before I forget. There was a 93-year-old World War II veteran elected in New Jersey to the office of mayor. Why? And I saw it on the national news yesterday. And he said the reason he decided to run for mayor at 93 years old, and after being a World War II veteran, instead of putting up his feet, he said, the people in the community were sick and tired of tax increases. smaller community, probably a little bit more owner-occupied buildings, and probably a little bit better educated to the issues. They elected a 93-year-old person because he said, "I'm sick of taxes. Let's give the taxpayers a break." But they never get a break. And now this again, you know. And I know they had the ploy. They had all the children in there, and all the school. What really got me is I'm looking at the audience with all the school department people, and all of them getting, the majority of them getting 6 figures.
Right.
Sitting in there after they threaten again, much to my chagrin, cutting police and fire and teachers. Well, you know something, people? It's time to call their bluff. Call all your city councilors and tell them you're sick and tired of this threat. You know something? I dare you. Lay off fire, lay off police, lay off teachers, and guess what? Somebody's already been on Facebook, I've heard, talking about a recall. You're going to lay off fire, you're going to lay off police, you're going to lay off teachers. You're not going to lay off any administrators. You're not going to lay off Jen Andrade. You're not going to lay off anybody in the mayor's staff. You're not going to lay off any assistants, vice principals, chief financial officers, and my favorite of all time, dean of students in the middle schools. Who the hell ever heard of a dean of student in a middle school? The first time I ever saw a dean of students was in college. I mean, they can't ever run out of figuring out how to get jobs, high-paying jobs for their political cronies, especially in the school department. They got their own treasurer, even though we got a treasurer for the city. And by the way, even though they're autonomous to a degree, they're still part of the city. We have a treasurer, they have a treasurer. We have buildings and grounds, they have buildings and grounds. They've got jobs for everybody. The principal, the vice principal's assistant, the assistant to the vice principal's assistant. You know, I mean, look, when you start laying off, if you don't lay off those people first, you should be recalled. Every single one of you. Every single one of you should be recalled. Because you know something? We had a much higher school population in the old days. And we had principals and vice principals. We didn't have CFOs and deans of students and all this other baloney, which is just political code for giving all my friends good jobs. And then you look at it, the relationship is almost incestuous. Look at the names. Look at the principals' names, the CFOs' names, all these fancy jobs. And then you look at them, and they're all related. And they're all connected. And, you know, look, do we need a new school? Yeah. Should we need a new school at this point in time? No. This school's only lasted 40 years. The average is 50 to 60 years by Ken Pacheco's own admission. And by his own admission, they get extra money. Do you think I want to pay a bond and to have my granddaughter pay the bond, and her children pay this bond forever? For what? We're going to do things we don't need. As a matter of fact, in another article we're talking about, see a flurry of plans for pricey schools.
Boston Globe.
That's right, the Boston Globe, and we'll talk about that. But they talked about amenities. We're getting amenities. You know, how about a no-frills high school? How about a no-frills high school? How about a high school that gives the children a good learning environment, and forget about the amenities? Okay? You don't need power seats, stereo multiplex radios, you know, wheels that go up and down and move the car up and down with little tassels in the back window. We don't need that stuff.
The wheels on the bus go round.
And you know something? Why don't we get a bond issue that says expressly for those items covered by the reimbursement of the state, so we get some reimbursement, and by their own admission, not even coming close. But I think the important thing, and I know you were there and you texted me, that they finally got out of Mary Sahadi that at any time they can go after the rest of the money. And believe me, they will. Just like, do I have to remind you, you don't want the trail? Don't worry about it.
That's
before
right.
the election. And look at the mess we're in.
That's right, and the Carrigs are still defending it. But here's the thing. Just received a message. Thank you for speaking yesterday at the meeting. Was Kilby there? He's making a big stink when Kamara said about homeowners won't be able to afford the increase. He said nothing when the person who spoke after me, there was a woman who spoke after me, made that nasty comment, we should sell our houses. I gasped when I heard her say that. I don't remember the rest she said. The woman that came after me, and I'm not going to say her name at this point in time because number one, I'm not sure of it and I don't want to make a mistake. And number two, if I have to, on Friday's show, I will have an excerpt of what she said. She said, if they can't afford to pay their taxes and fees, then they should sell their houses and get out of Fall River. This came from a Fall River resident, possibly school teacher, because she was there with all the school teachers. Okay? She claimed she was a graduating class of 1992. So, for the seniors and retirees in our audience, if you can't afford your house, according to the Fall River Educators Association representatives, according to the City Council, 7 members, if you can't afford it, get out of Dodge. You're not welcome here. And that's exactly what they're saying. And the worst part about it is they had the opportunity last night to give the taxpayer a break. Sean Kadim made a motion, which was seconded originally by Leo Pelletier, to definitely build the school within the tax levy of the city of Fall River. And the moment that motion was made and seconded, Kathy Ann Viveris and Mary Sahadi, the Pinocchio twins, turned around and said, well, if we do that, we're going to have to cut necessary services, public safety, employees. We're going to have to lay people off. How come it's always that way? How come?
Yeah.
How come they can't say, hey, you know what, Mayor? You're going to lose your chief of staff. You're going to lose your special assistant. How come you can't say those things? How come the mayor can keep pissing away money, but the people of Fall River have to keep paying for it? How come these jobs have to keep coming up for people who do nothing, like Hill Kamara, Joe Kamara's brother, $80,000 a year, sitting on his butt all day, and nobody ever sees him? All political paybacks. This is what your mayor's doing. And somebody said he was a fiscal conservative. I said, where is he a fiscal conservative? All I see is money being pissed away in the wind.
Well, not only that, he is totally insensitive to anybody, because I guess since Mommy and Daddy picked up all his bills till he became mayor, he has no understanding. He's insensitive to the people in the high-rise that were there on vouchers that went before the council and complained and have talked publicly about how they're going to be displaced. And his mouthpiece on the housing authority,
Jason Burns, I have no problem saying
said the mayor doesn't want this. Well, the mayor doesn't care about poor people. Throw them out in the street. Like one of the women said, where am I going to go? Well, guess what? They don't care. They don't care about the poor people, and shame on that individual who made a statement that if they can't pay their property taxes, they should get out of town. Well, you know something, lady? We're going to find out who you are, and we're going to check.
I have her name and I have her address.
Because guess what? You don't care about people that worked for this city for 40 years and are sitting on a fixed income, and all they do is bombard them with fees and taxes, where we have people in this community, many of these seniors, that have houses that are fully paid for and have been paid for years. They're on the verge of losing their homes because of the fact that they can't even afford all these incessant tax increases and fee increases. And you're supposed to be an educator. Well, educate yourself. Educate yourself. Pick up a book and read Milton Friedman, a Nobel Prize-winning economist who said you can't tax your way to prosperity, and taxes are counterproductive to the economy. Read Winston Churchill, that said trying to cure your problems with taxes like standing in a bucket and trying to lift it by the handles. You're one of the haves, and you showed by that insensitive statement you don't care about the have-nots. You don't care about the people who worked all their lives and are on fixed incomes. You probably supported the pay raise for the CEO of the EpiPen and the other guy with the cancer drug. Because you're the kind of person that says, hey, I don't care, this doesn't affect me. Well, you know something? I hope something does affect you. Because I'll be on the pro side of that if I know you're on the negative. Because you don't care about the people of Fall River. You don't even know the city you live in. You're a resident, and you don't know that we got 23% of the people living below the poverty level. You don't know that we have the lowest household income in the state of Massachusetts, and you call yourself an educator? Shame on you. Shame on you. That just goes to show, because that's what we have in this city. We have a city council,
I agree.
and I'm looking at this article, a flurry of plans, and who started it? Newton. They built a $200 million school, and then they figured out how much money they could make and get all their friends construction jobs and jobs in the process. But you know something?
Newton can afford it.
Newton, exactly. Newton's the only damn city of our size in this state that can't afford it. Because guess what? Their household income is 4 times what Fall River's is. They have 75% of their people with a bachelor's degree or better. And they also have a budget that you can read.
Imagine that. That's scary.
And money isn't an issue in Newton. They built a $200 million, and it's fine. I know guys that left Fall River and are on the Newton Fire Department. They love it up there. They say, hey, they need apparatus. Buy it. We got money. Well, guess what? It's a different community. It's one of the only cities of this size, medium-sized cities in the state that has money. Why does it have money? You can never replicate Newton. It's a place where all the rich yuppies that work in Boston and make 6-figure salaries go to their little bedroom community, and they take care of their community. They got plenty of money. They got plenty of money. Look at the rest of the cities of our size. Lawrence, Lynn, Lowell, Brockton, Fall River, New Bedford. Look at their economies. Look at their economies. Do you all have your head so far up your derriere that you must be oxygen deprived if you can't figure this out?
Well, you know, the thing about it was the Pinocchio sisters were out in full force last night. Now, I'm going to call this out the way it is. The only 2 city councilors who voted down sending this to bond, okay, or sending to the voters to determine if they're going to bond, was Steve Camara and Sean Kadim. And the reason why is there is a viable way. Although the city finance Pinocchio sisters keep saying there isn't, that they would have to cut police and fire. No, you have to cut police and fire because you want to keep the mayor's friends in jobs. Cut unnecessary jobs and you'll have more money. That's the key. Cut unnecessary jobs, you'll have more money. I mean, you know how they're already cutting unnecessary jobs? And I don't think it's unnecessary. They privatized maintenance in Government Center to 2 floors. They have 2 floors that are handled by a private contract, and the library is handled by a private contract. Now, we can't handle our own maintenance, so we had to hire a private company to do it. Yeah. And this is where the problems are. We couldn't handle our own trash removal, so we hired a private company, which can't handle it any better.
Well, like I said, I'm a strong proponent of calling their bluff. As you said, they won't cut out unnecessary jobs. They never lay off their friends.
That's right.
Who have no-show jobs and jobs that were given with no qualifications because they're politically connected. And they're going to always threaten fire, police, teachers, all the people that deliver services, you know, DCM, people that pick up your trash. Well, guess what? Call their bluff. People of Fall River call their bluff. Say, go ahead. You want to do this? Then we can file a lawsuit against you because you're threatening our safety without ever laying off your chief of staff and your photo op person and all the other euphemistic titles that you come up with to give all your friends from your campaign a job. You know something? Don't, lay off some of the administrators. We have one of the highest percentages of school administrators in the state. The ratio of administrators to teachers, we have one of the highest rates. And we have all these jobs, as I said, have appeared over the years in a school population that is diminishing. It's getting smaller.
Well, let's.
And what happened? Yeah, and what happened? We got more jobs and more administrators for less people. Guess what?
I mean,
you know what it's called? Government.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. They're going to spend a couple of $1 million on adding 400 more parking spaces at the high school. So that's going to bring it up to 1,200 parking spaces. You mean to tell me there's 1,200 students that drive cars? 1,200 students at faculty that drive cars? We have to expand it? I mean, granted, I've seen the parking lot pretty full, but I've seen empty spaces too. All right? So there's one issue. Then you start talking about the fact that they're saying, oh, we're only going to bond $58 million, which is the city side, $58 million of the $100 million of the city side that we have to pay. Wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong. They're going to bond $264 million. I have the paperwork. Look at this, Mr. Mayor. I have something. Yes, I do. $264 million. They have to bond it all.
That's right.
And then what happens is they get the money back from the state. And it doesn't go to pay off the bonds early because they can't pay them off early. And what was the key statement that Mary Sahadi said? The city can at any time go for 100% reimbursement from the taxpayer. They're saying it's going to cost you $25 a quarter. Wrong. If they bond $264 million at 4.5% interest over 30 years, you're talking about $388 a year or more on your taxes. That is a lot of money for a lot of people, and that's a significant increase.
Oh, wait a minute. I have to interrupt you, CJ. I just received a text from a viewer.
Yep.
Kathy Andeveris got a pay raise to $140,000, and Mary Sahadi's up to $120,000.
So there you go.
So there you go. Hey, whatever your name was, complain. That's right. If you can't get $140,000, if you can't get a pay raise like that, if you don't make that kind of money, and by the way, both of them are going to retire, who had part-time jobs, one in the city council and the other one on the housing authority, with a hell of a lot fatter pension than you got for working for 40 years, working your butt off for the city. So this is again, government, fair play, and patronage. 140 grand, but I guess she's probably worth a hell of a lot more than that. I've never seen two more skillful manipulators of the truth than those two. And like I said, it took, I think, 6 dentists to pull that out of her, that they can get all the money whenever they want it. And if you don't think they're going to get all the money at some point in time, as I said, you need to be put in a mental institution.
Well, it's very interesting to say the least. We got something that's kind of off topic, but we just received a recall alert. If you have Aunt Jemima frozen pancakes, waffles, and French toast in your freezer that could be contaminated, please look at them. This recall includes all best buy dates, meaning that if you have these in your freezer, by all means, do not consume these products. So if you have Aunt Jemima frozen pancakes, waffles, or French toast, take them back to the market or get rid of them. Sorry, but we have to do that. Sometimes we get these alerts right away, so we always bring them up. But the thing that really bothers me most is that they lied through their teeth. And these 7 city councilors are the same city councilors who voted to increase your taxes with the tax factor. Pamela Liberté LeBeau, Cliff Ponte.
No, I don't think he voted for it. He wasn't there.
Joe Camara. No, Cliff Ponte was there.
For the tax factor?
Yeah. Wasn't he?
No. I think he was out. I think
okay.
He wasn't there. Now, we don't know how he would have voted, but we have to be fair. In my recollection, I think he was off when they did that. Maybe I'm wrong. You could be right.
The three city councilors, all right, well, I'll give them 4. 4 city councilors that are there right now. The 3 new ones in Cliff Ponte didn't vote for the tax factor increase, but the balancing 5 did. The balancing 5 did. So guess what? Joe Camara, Steve Long, Pamela Liberté LeBeau. There you go. There's 3 right off the top. Who are also, Steve Camara voted no.
Well, look at the track record. You got Steve Long, who said in front of the council, I don't know how many generations of his family have been living really well in this city.
Sucking the system dry.
Yeah, because, where was he before he was a councilor? Didn't he work in CDA?
Yes, he did. He was a CDA
And he's looking to get back there.
Right.
And when he's off the council, he'll fall somewhere nice and soft, just like they all do. And of course, like I said, we all know Leo. Leo got bounced out, and he got a job in the
VA.
In the veterans. Yet he's a non-vet. So you got a non-vet that got a job in our veterans office by a former colleague of the city council. You're telling me there's no vet
that can drive a bus?
Unemployed that couldn't drive a van? We couldn't find a veteran to work in the veterans office? No, to hell with it. But we love veterans, remember that. We love them.
We only love them when it's an election year and it's going to get us a vote.
Yeah, we only love them when it's an election year. But the fact is that this is the way it goes. And, if you can't get angry about this, I mean, there's just it's relentless. I've never seen anything like it the last 10 or 15 years. And the propaganda, this propaganda, Goebbels, he was right. You tell a lie enough, people believe it. They tell you have to get a tax increase every year. It's your obligation. I remember Fiola saying people have to expect to get their taxes and fees increased every year. And then you got this self-interest group traipsing up to Citizens Input and said, if you can't afford the taxes, move out of town. Well, if you can't afford food, starve to death.
That's it.
If you can't afford your medication, die. We have no consideration for people.
No compassion
fortunate.
whatsoever.
Screw them. I got a job in a system, and if I say the right thing, who knows that someday I might become a vice principal.
That's it. But here's the thing. Sean Kadim and Steve Camara are the only people who voted against increasing your taxes. Joe Camara, Pamela Liberté-LeBeau, Steve Long, Derek Viveris, Cliff Ponte, Brad Kilby, Leo Pelletier, all voted to increase your taxes. And to add insult to injury, Leo Pelletier seconded the motion to let us bond within our levy limits, and then he removed it because, you know what? Increasing your taxes is the way to go. Screw you, taxpayer. Screw you. Because guess what? You're not worth anything.
That's right. And remember one thing. We're not saying we're not in favor of a school. But what I'm in favor of is spending as little as possible and getting the best bang for our buck. Not doing what Kenny Pacheco says they do on a regular basis, which is take more money than they need so they can throw it in that black hole they call their expenditures, and we never find out how they spent it. Because I heard Kenny Pacheco say they borrowed $17 million more than they needed, but we never found out how they used that $17 million, did we?
Nope, because you know why?
We never will.
Screw you, taxpayer!
And I have a bone to pick with every one of those counselors. I'm not in favor of education. As I said, both my children are well educated. And I paid for that education, too. Nobody else. I paid for their education. But the fact is that I'm very pro-education, but I'm not pro-wasting money. I'm not pro-putting people out of their homes and making people choose between keeping their homes and eating or getting medications. Because as this is going along, their medications are going up. Their co-pays are going up. And nobody cares, I guess. Nobody cares. They're all rich and they're all connected. And the hell with the people. So stay angry. If you're not angry about this one, there's nothing that can get your blood pressure up.
Nope, and this is going to be going all week, people. Call your city councilors and tell them you suck. You're trying to raise my taxes. Tell them you suck. You won't get my vote in the next election. See you on Friday.